Welcome to the March press conference from the city manager and the mayor's office. We have a few things we would like to go over with you today. There's one thing I want to bring up, if I may. Earlier this morning, I was on the radio. They tell me I have a good face for the radio. But I was on the radio this morning speaking to the mass shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. And there were comments that were made, and the question was, is Topeka ready and prepared for something like this? Valid question, I think, but is any community really prepared for something as horrible as happened in Nashville? I think as a community, we all share in the grief and the loss that city is feeling right now. There's just no explanation. I won't use a lot of the words that come across, unfortunately, every time we have a shooting like this, because we've heard them before, and it seems to fall on deaf ears in some cases. So I think it's important for us to stop and think about the impact an event like that has on not that community, but the entire country. I think, for me, we need to keep the conversation going in between, I hate these incidents, not just when it happens and then we lose track of it and start talking about other things in the news, because we know that things happen on a quick basis and we lose focus sometimes for a while. But the conversation has to be that it's not just about the access to weapons, which seems like that's where the first go-to is we need to do something about access to firearms that were used in this mass shooting. That's important, I think. But enough talk has been said about that, and we haven't seen any action in those lobbies that can make some difference. So we also have to focus on what a community can do. And a community has to keep the conversation alive about how we treat each other, period. I think it's been very clear that as a nation, it seems like we are quick to start finger pointing and blaming and getting into from discussion to arguments very quickly. And that has an effect on people in many different ways. Obviously, some people take those kinds of frustrations and into action and do terrible things. So give some consideration to the community, its preparation for life, and not preparation for an incident of death. Because I will reassure the citizens of Topeka that law enforcement in Topeka is real ready and capable of responding, but we don't want to have to respond to something like that, because that's an after-the-fact incident. The Topeka Police Department, Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, the USD 501 Police Department, Washburn University Police, they all practice and train on a regular basis. They adapt, update their methods and techniques, and all that training is important. So know that we are doing everything in that arena that we should be doing as a government in protecting our community. But the community needs to join us and talk about this in ways that are helpful in making a change in how we treat each other, and how oftentimes ideology or a belief goes astray and we end up having children over and over shot and what should be one of the safest places in their communities and schools. So my condolences to the families, to the entire community of Nashville. And I ask for us to really give serious thought when we're thinking about how do we prevent. Because prevention is not about just barricading our kids in the schools. We have to create a culture that does not invite this kind of activity. So those are my personal comments, and as a mayor, I want to assure the citizens of Topeka that we are in solidarity with the people in Nashville. So from that, I'll move to the city manager.
You know, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, we had a couple of scary false alarms here in the last 6 months. And, you know, one at Hayden High School and one at Highland Park. And to your point, it does reinforce the drills that have taken place. It does reinforce the plans that have taken place. We had to put those into action. And, you know, we learn, we always improve, we always look for ways to get better. And those were two incidents that proved that we never want to see it happen, but we know what we're doing. So.
We do. Go ahead and speak to the item that you had coming up.
Okay, so tonight we have a special session for governing body. We start that session at 5:30 this evening with some small group work. And that'll be off camera, and it's for the reason, it's just simply from an audio-visual aspect, it's just not conducive to that in small groups. But we do go live on camera around 7:15 tonight for the purposes of presenting work that's been done on the strategic plan for the city. The governing body did a lot of work in February. That's been turned over to staff to try to address ways to make those things happen. So we'll present to governing body tonight the work that's been done. It'll be a checkoff. Really, it's are we doing the right things to what was intended? From there, we'll continue to flesh out that process and hope, Mr. Mayor, to come back to you guys either in April or May with a final product. But certainly for everybody, 7:15 tonight, there'll be a lot of discussion as to what that strategic plan might look like. Changing our culture of property maintenance. We're rolling into year 2. Lots of stuff to be coming with that in the coming days. This Thursday kicks off the first of 3 community information sessions about the initiative and how to get involved. The first one is March 30th at 5:30. That's at Central Park Community Center. We have one on April 3rd, 11:30 a.m. That's at the Hillcrest Community Center. And then we actually have, Mr. Mayor, an all-Spanish session on April the 10th. That's at 5:30 p.m. at the Salvation Army. And certainly our Chief DEI Officer, Ernesto de la Rosa, has been heavily involved with that, and we're excited about the fact that these community conversations are being done to address all parts of the community. So that's coming up here in the next couple of days and rolling into next week.
Okay. Well, good. I have a couple of things I'd like to bring up in a positive way. They're after the fact, but oftentimes we don't get to hear about them as a community-wide event. I was able to participate in a long-standing program. It's been going on for about 10 years now, hosted by Mana de Topeka, a local chapter of a national Latina women's organization. They have partnered for years with Washburn University. And Washburn University has really been gracious in hosting this event at the campus. And there were over 200 young girls from middle school and high school partaking in what they call the Hermanitas program. And that program promotes higher education and the presentation of opportunities that exist in this community for our youth. And oftentimes, kids, when they're asked what do they want to be when they grow up, they don't know what they want to be when they grow up because they have not been exposed to the opportunities that we have in our community. And that's what this program seeks to do. They have activities that are hosted by about 30 professionals within our community. And I think that speaks volumes about what these professionals bring and how important they see this program. Because we have sitting judges, doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, dental care providers. You just go down the list of those kinds of professions that are available here in Topeka that a lot of the youth don't know exist. And what they do is try to show the students how they can start their path toward that career while they're in junior high, high school, and deciding on college. And hopefully that college will be Washburn University because we have an excellent university here. And this year, Washburn University awarded 2 $1,000 scholarships to a couple of the attendees there. That was really exciting. If you could have been there to see that group of kids getting so excited and involved about what the possibilities are in Topeka, Kansas. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that that happens on an annual basis. The school counselors, USD 501, they are really important in getting this organized and bringing the students to the event. So that's something I want to talk about and crow about in Topeka. Another thing that happened over the weekend that I really had a great time attending, and that was the Kansas Mission of Mercy event here in Topeka. This is the third time that event has been here. I say it's been going on for 20 years, I believe. And I think the estimate is there's been over 31,000 people who have been cared for under that program. And what you need to know is that this is cost-free to every client that shows up. They show up with all kinds of dental needs, anything from cleaning to extractions to fillings, just everything that you would expect that you would find in a dentist's office. They provide in a very organized, professional, safe, and clean atmosphere. And I was able to speak to all of the professionals who showed up, and they come from all cities across Kansas. And I spoke to 2 or 3 doctors from Colorado who came here to Topeka to participate because they have stated that they've done this all over the country and they enjoy coming to Kansas for this event because it is so well attended and they feel so good about what they do with this program. My thanks to all the volunteers that are part of this and the local sponsors like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Stormont Vale, and others who put this all together. It takes a lot of work to put this thing together. They invited me to come down and look at the operation on Saturday, so I went down on Saturday, and they had it all set up, very organized. There's no waiting. They have enough people to take care of the people who show up, and if a line starts to happen, they address it very quickly. They showed me the area for the kids, for the pediatrics. They had that all set up to make the kids feel comfortable about going to the dentist, because some of us, even as adults, have that hesitation. But they really make it a comfortable atmosphere and helpful atmosphere. And I want to thank everybody who participated in that program because it serves a population that oftentimes doesn't have access to that kind of health care. And that dental health care can really affect your overall health in significant ways. So my thanks goes out to all the volunteers and the doctors and professionals and assistants. My hygienist was there volunteering too, so it was good to see her putting her time in there. Another event that I got to attend was the Blarney Breakfast. And that's something very familiar to a lot of the people in this community. The Blarney Breakfast is an annual fundraiser for the Capper Foundation. And they did amazing work this weekend. I think last year they had like 320 some sold tickets. This year it was 640 some. They more than doubled what they did last year. They're thinking they might even need a bigger room because there are so many people coming there, but it's done in an atmosphere that they know that this money is going to a good cause, and people enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. They come out and have good food. It was held at the Blind Tiger, and I want to thank the owner of the Blind Tiger and all, again, the volunteers. Volunteers in the city of Topeka make this place run, and they put in all their time to get everybody in and out, and it was just a privilege to be able to participate in that. So I encourage people, plan next year. Don't miss out on that event. I think you'll enjoy it. I know you'll enjoy it. So those are a couple of the things that, being in this office, I get the honor to attend, and I want to make sure people know what the rest of the community is doing. We have so many good nonprofit organizations and volunteers in this community that bring help to others. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I think you had something else you wanted to tell on, City Manager?
Yeah, this is the time of year to where orange cones start popping up all over the place, and so we ask for the patience of everybody with us, and we ask them to watch out for construction workers, to keep them safe. Orange cones equal progress, and detours are maybe a little bit of an inconvenience, but the end product is well worth it. So it's that time of year. We think that next week we'll see some asphalt plants opening up, and so you're going to see a lot of work happening right now. Certainly some detours popped up yesterday on Gage, and we asked everybody to be considerate. Saw some stuff yesterday that folks cutting through parking lots and whatnot out of frustration, and that's just not safe. So please follow the detour signs and be considerate to all those. And when you do that, things get done faster. So
You mentioned something, maybe you could give us a little more detail. I know that came up, the announcement of, was it $4.93 million?
Yep.
For street repair, mill and overlay. Supposed to all be done within this year.
Within this year.
You can speak any details you might add to that. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so we're basically trying to what I call paint some streets black. A lot of asphalt going down. Certainly nobody likes potholes, and so there's a list of projects that are on the front page of the Topeka.org site that break down those projects. But lots of stuff going on, lots of asphalt being laid, and we're working hard to improve our roads.
Well, and to follow up on that, the city manager puts out a weekly update and report that I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing. It's easy to access, and I've got the site that you can go to so you can sign up for it so you can get his weekly reports, and that's www.topeka.org/citymanager/weekly, I think it's -reports/.
Yeah, there's also a real quick way. If you do go to the Topeka.org home site, there's a spot in there for city manager, and you'll find a link to that weekly update. Communications department does a great job putting that together, and so lots of good information in there every week.
Yeah, and including the details from the city manager's office. Often they have the recap from the previous city council meeting too.
Yep.
That they'll have that on there too, Taylor does a good job of presenting a recap of what we talked about during our council meetings. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that it was easy for them to find, easier than I explained it. The one other thing I want to bring up is that, and I think the city manager has some details too, is the Topeka Fire Department's Camp Courage. That's ongoing and will start in June. I think you have some details.
June 5 to 9.
Okay. Maybe you can give some details about ages and so forth.
Ages 14 to 20, and we open up applications this Saturday at 10 a.m. We know those applications fill fast, so 10 a.m. this Saturday. It's on the city's website. If you go to the Topeka Fire Department page, you'll see that application. But young women ages 14 to 20 with the camp dates of June 5 to 9.
Good. That's a good program. I've gone to a couple of their sessions just to see that being presented and in action, and it's impressive.
It is very impressive.
And it's worthy of note that all the instructors are female firefighters, and they come from other agencies as well, not just within the city of Topeka. We'd like to grow that number.
That's right.
That's why we're putting this on.
That's right.
So it's important that we make people aware of it. One other thing I want to make sure that I mentioned about, again, good things happening in the city of Topeka was the Junior Achievement Awards and the Business Hall of Fame that we had here recently. We had some very accomplished people recognized at that event, and I would like to repeat, those selected were Martha Sheehan, who many of people know in the city of Topeka, used to be and was, I think, the originator of the Leadership Greater Topeka program. A lot of people have gone through that. I was in the best class ever, as everyone will say when they get a chance to. Very deserving. D.L. Smith, a longtime recognized name electrical contractor here in the city of Topeka, who is his business is being continued by his son Sean, and they do a lot of good work in the city of Topeka. Keith Warda, who is retired from Bartlett and West. He's retired maybe from that full-time job, but he keeps completely involved with the community and is a real gold standard for volunteer and work in the community. And I can't forget my friend Dan Foltz, too, with KBS Construction. He's done so much in the city of Topeka. There are a lot of buildings and projects you can look to that,
That's right.
that Dan was involved
That's
in.
right.
And I got to meet and get to know him when he and I sat together on the Midland Care Hospice Board. Four very, very important people in our community because of the work they have done, not just as a business, but how they have improved the lives of many people in the city of Topeka. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned them. And the last thing I want to mention again was over the weekend I was able to be at the kickoff registration for the NAMI walk that's going to happen on May the 20th, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. That happens on a regular basis every year. It's a good cause. Again, it's a focus on helping those who have disabilities and needs in our community, and that's something we talked about a little bit earlier, about mental health in our community. And NAMI has been a long-time supporter of health and resources here in the city of Topeka. And I encourage people to come out, have a good time, walk as far as you can, or as little as you can, but register and participate in the NAMI walk on May the 20th. So we have plenty of time to practice, get loosened up, and get ready for it. That's all I had this morning. And Stephen, if you have anything else?
I might throw one other thing, and that's just kind of an update on this situation with homeless. We do have a summit that takes place next Wednesday. It's an all-day summit. It's invitation only, but we have I think 35 agencies right now that plan on attending. Those are all agencies that touch Topeka homeless in one fashion or another. So it should be some great conversations. Really trying to come to an understanding of what we're doing community-wide, where there might be some gaps in available service. And then from that, Mr. Mayor, we will start that process of engaging with the consultant that we've talked about with the governing body. That's likely to take effect about the 1st of May. So this is first step next Wednesday, and we'll start moving from there.
Okay, good. Well, any questions?
Situation with Harlem Globetrotters and a laundromat over the weekend, it's gotten some traction and racialism is being thrown out there. What do you guys know about this? And what can you comment on that?
Well, for me, I have to tell you, Eric, I have not spoken with anybody who was directly involved with that issue. How it came to my attention was I was visiting my mother and went to the grocery store over in Oakland, which is nearby that laundromat. And while I was in the grocery store, one of the clerks came to me and said, "Hey, did you hear about the issue with the Globetrotters?" I said, "No, what's the issue?" He says, "Well, I'm not sure about the details, but somebody from the news media was in the store asking about it." And he said, "I forgot you were in the store." So I would have said, "Well, the mayor's in the store, but they're gone already." So I thought, well, okay. I finished quickly getting what I was going to get, and then it's just a walk over to that laundromat. So I walked over to see if anybody was there. Nobody was there. So I looked for something on the news, and I didn't see anything. So I really can't comment because I have no details at all about what happened. And maybe that's something that I can ask you about if you can fill me in.
Yeah, I don't have any direct information either. There's lots of conflicting reports and speculation, but I have no direct information.
Gives Topeka a bad name right now, whether it's legit or not. How do you handle that? That's the thing, you don't know if something's true, and then it gets thrown out there on social media. That's what this is, and so it's giving Topeka a bad name, whether it happened or not. How do you handle that?
Well, again, I can't handle anything I don't know about. And if I missed it on social media, it's not something I spend a lot of time on social media. But anytime there is a conflict in the city of Topeka, you have to give the public the opportunity to find out all the details and then working from there. But again, when I was speaking earlier about how we address each other, how we take care of each other, how we quickly elevate a situation to something that it shouldn't be, if that's the case. Again, I don't know what it is. What we're constantly trying to do is ask people to take a step back. Step back, think about what's going on, what you're doing, what you're saying, and how you can help a situation. Again, I'd be more than glad to visit with you after this if you want, and you can fill me in with some details, but I honestly do not have any details about what happened.
Yeah, and I just would say the community works hard to be inclusive, the community works hard to be friendly, and Topeka's got a great reputation for being friendly, to being welcoming, and so we just keep doing that.
So there's a proposal regarding a land bank up for discussion next week. Could you tell the public a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's very preliminary in its steps right now. We'll have a lot of conversation about that at the April 4th governing body meeting. But really it's, we're looking for ways to provide more housing in the city and affordable housing at that. One thing that a land bank can do is to help promote what we call infill. So single lots as opposed to large developments. And so a land bank works in a fashion to where we have some properties that, for whatever the circumstance is, they're delinquent on their property taxes. And they have been for a large period of time, to where they are now eligible to go up for sale, up for an auction through a sheriff's auction. Several communities have implemented a land bank. What that does, it would allow the city to acquire that property, work to rehab those properties, those houses, so that it can be turned into a good place to live for single-family homes. And so that's something that we'll kick around for discussion on the 4th. I think we're slated for possible action on the 11th of April. But lots of communities are doing this inside the state as well as across the country, having some very good success with it. And we think that this is a tool that we can use to increase the number of houses available for residents.
There's also a proposal regarding the potential rural incentive housing district on the east side on the agenda for action at next Tuesday's meeting. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that is that would be first step in that process. Basically, we have an applicant. That applicant will, if approved by the council, will go to the Department of Commerce for consideration. So it's not a final action, it's just, this is first step. Department of Commerce looks at those applications, makes sure that it meets the requirements for the state. At that point in time, then it will come back to the city for consideration. So my guess is we'll be looking at this for governing body consideration probably sometime in May. But this is a chance to build some new houses and multifamily dwellings on the east side that certainly is at that affordable level. We're super excited about how this Rural Housing Incentive District program is working. You've seen lots of activity already in the last month and a half. So we think that in the next year and a half or 2 years, you're going to see a lot of houses popping up throughout the city.
Anything on the Port Quincy Viaduct as far as how that's going, acquisition of properties to be demolished to pave the way for that project to keep going?
I don't think anything new to update right now, other than the fact that the project's moving forward. Certainly you saw last week at council conversations in regards to the city's portion of that on utility moves. But it's all moving forward, and with this being construction season, I think you'll see a lot of activity along those lines.
Further questions? None? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate your attention and for the questions.
So, thanks.
Have a good morning.